Major General, from Syria to Guatemala to Iran to Congo to South Vietnam to Libya, we are all very familiar with this pattern of US intervention where you overthrow a regime which is anti-US, you put in a puppet regime. So this attack on Venezuela and then capturing of a sitting president, can it be called anything less than kidnapping at this point?
You see, in technical terms, I would certainly agree with your statement that it is kidnapping, but there is a larger issue to it. It's not
Right,
only kidnapping, it is ensuring that you take control of another country
right.
because these are larger implications and it actually affects the rule-based order of what we are talking about in geopolitics. Because what right has got one nation to take over in this manner, in a forceful manner? The people of the country have not asked for outside help, or somebody has not sought Donald Trump's help to bail out the country from chaos. And there was no chaos in Venezuela. Everything was normal. It's only that
मेरे को मालूम है आई
the Chinese influence was getting too much for Trump to accept, and he has made it in his I heard his press conference. He has made one cryptic remark saying that before anybody comes in, so you have to understand that what he is meaning by that term, and that actually amplifies. And if you look at what is happening in Venezuela since the last about 10 years, the Chinese Belt Road Initiative is also there. Various Chinese infrastructure projects are on in Venezuela. As a matter of fact, the surveillance equipment, also HQ9 radar, which the Americans have neutralized, was also a Chinese-based radars here. Russian influence is there because again we saw the S-300 air defense system being deployed at the Caracas airport. So these are the major reasons which prompted Trump to take action, because Venezuela is a oil-rich country. It has got tremendous amount of resources, and Trump didn't want any external influence here. He was also quite I'm unhappy with the way Venezuela was going about doing its business of oil, and possibly American economy also today is in a bad shape. It needs some sort of a resuscitation. So I think all these factors combined. It's not only one specific factor. When people say it's oil, 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 it's not. It's not all about oil. It's also about the kind of influence which China and Russia were exerting in Venezuela. And Venezuela is a very, Achilles heel for him, because it's very, very, uh, it's on the border with America, and anything which will affect the security balance in Venezuela is bound to affect America, because tomorrow China could have set up a base here, and then it becomes difficult for the Americans to counter that. So he has preempted all these actions which these Chinese were planning to do, and possibly intelligence has been of the highest order, because they have been rehearsing this entire operation. And as a matter of fact, America is quite well versed, as a briefing also brought out from the military spokesman when he said that we have past history also of conducting similar kind of operations. We are aware America also carried out a similar operation in Panama also some years back. So I think we have to look this from a larger perspective of the security interest of America. Secondly, the Monroe Doctrine 2.0 should also not be ignored, because Trump has recently amended that doctrine to uh, give it a legal
And he's
sanctity
calling it
within
a
a union.
Donro doctrine, in fact, now.
Donro Doctrine, okay. And basically, it is to give legal sanctity to this entire operation, and to tell his people that he has operated within the parameters of recognized and accepted doctrine in the United States, and he has purposefully not taken a congressional approval because this entire operation was bounded in secrecy. Because moment you go to the Congress and you start seeking approvals, the secrecy is lost. So I think uh, from a military point of view, if I assess it, it's one of the finest planned operations in recent military history,
Right.
where the land power, the air power, the naval power, extreme amount of coordination, intelligence-based operation. They knew exactly where to go, where uh, uh, this guy was actually sitting there, Maduro and his wife. They knew exactly, and they were very in a precision kind of operation. I believe it lasted only 30 minutes. So you can imagine the kind of planning, coordination, and rehearsals which would have actually gone into this operation. And my last point is, I think it's a strong message to the world who doubts America's capability to carry out these kind of operations in other countries, because some kind of doubts were also coming in that America is losing its potency in terms of its military power. And I think a strong a message to both China and Russia at the same time.
All right, let me also bring in Ambassador Suresh K. Goyal on this. Ambassador, I want to ask you, with Donald Trump now extending this Monroe Doctrine to Dunro Doctrine, and efforts being taken to establish absolute dominance of the United States in the Western Hemisphere, are we looking at a scenario where might is right has been cemented and there is going to be no regard for international law or UN Charter?
Regard for the international law. Essentially, when we talk about the international law, it has always been seen that the law is actually laid by those who can enforce it. Look at the Security Council, the United Nations that has been tasked with the basic job of maintaining international peace and security, and the task has been entrusted to Security Council, where the decision making is in the hands of permanent five: Russia, China, UK, France, and US. Now, five countries, those who have veto powers. And today, even though Russia and China have supported the call by Colombia to discuss the matter in the Security Council, and there will be discussions. But any condemnation or any criticism of the operation by itself is going to be vetoed by the USA, by the UK. Keir
Right.
Starmer has already come out in support. Therefore, international law was always basically enforced by those who laid the law. And the law has changed over the time, depending upon who the powerful are. That is number one. Number two, I think what we need to really think more in this case is not the oil control, not the energy markets, and how the US is going to play in the Middle East, and how Ukraine and Russia are going to be impacted. But the fact that with this, the international order where we could think of a system of redressal has completely gone down. I think we need to not
Sorry
think
to
about the
interrupt you
options for
there.
India.
Sorry to interrupt you there, but I want to ask you, because you're mentioning that there has been a change in the international order. After this step, what stops China from taking over Taiwan or North Korea to take such a step with regard to South Korea then?
Absolutely. You're right on the dot. The thing is that Russia came into the Ukraine essentially through Belarus. That
Yes.
was a violation of the international law, but it was justified on grounds of the European security architecture, that Ukraine is trying to become the member of NATO, and that will threaten the security of Russia. It was justified. Tomorrow, China will justify taking over Taiwan, saying that Taiwan has always been a part of China. It will take Japan. It will go into Japan, saying that Japan is threatening the security of Shankaku Islands. Therefore, I'm saying the international order as we knew is under not only under threat, it has collapsed. And we need to think of alternatives now in terms of our own national security. And in an area like South Asia, where we are locating, we are under serious threat. We have China to our north, we have Pakistan to the west, which is practically a vassal state of the USA. Tomorrow, if Trump, it comes to Trump's mind that he has to punish India for something that we have done or not done. What will prevent Trump from using Pakistan as the airbase to come into India or collude with China to come to our north? Therefore, what my concern, really the utmost concern is, how do we make sure that the order that we know, that our own security, strategic security is ensured in this changed international order? Over to you.
Right, Ambassador. I think that's the question to ask at this point, and I will come back to this. But let me also bring in Mr. Surinder Singh Lali, who's also with us. Mr. Surinder, I want to ask you, Maduro right now, who is in the US, he's facing several criminal counts from narco-terrorism conspiracy to cocaine importation conspiracy to even possession of machine guns. What happens to him now? What is his fate when it comes to legal action being taken against him?
Thank you, Ishita. It's such a pleasure and honor for me to be here and with such a distinguished panel. American financial supremacy is there, but American hegemony is up for serious revision. And your question is, what could happen to Maduro? They're going to do what they did to Manuel Noriega of Panama, where they brought him to the U.S. and he's serving a prison sentence. He's going to be somewhere in the American prison for the rest of his life, defending the defensible or the indefensible. But, Shita, you said in the earlier part of the debate that the elephant in the room. I think there is much more to oil to Venezuela, so there's a dragon in the room. This is basically also a proxy war between the United States and China. I mean, the way China choked America for rare earths, while the Americans were, sleeping and caught napping, and China controls 80% of the rare earth. Oil and rare earth is big in this part of the world, and America is very insecure about Chinese hegemony into the Caribbean because this is virtually, America's backyard. And I'll give you 3 reasons why America's rattled, and Maduro is one of the reasons, not so legit. Because if drugs is the criteria, then Donald Trump has pardoned over 90 drug lords, and especially, the president of Honduras, which was serving a 47-year-old sentence in America with 500 kilos of cocaine. So that is all a fig leaf. It is all to do with America and China, and especially in this part of this region. Because, in the Caribbean, Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua are known to have Russian leanings. Rare earth, which is, the next, the data or the oil, what you may call it in the world, and the lithium triangle, which is Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile. And without rare earth, nothing works. Neither do the airplane industry, nor the car batteries, electric cars, nor can Elon Musk work or the American economy. And now, again, the recent, oil discoveries of Guyana, 31% of the fresh waters in this part of the world. So this is a much larger game in which Maduro, unfortunately, happens to be at the wrong place at the wrong time with the highest oil reserves, for which America used him. And I have a feeling they're going to do what they did to Yunus in Bangladesh. Machado, who just won the recent Nobel Prize, is going to be implanted, and America finds it far more convenient. If you look at post-World War II, over 70 regime changes have been successfully and non-successfully attempted by the United States, and Bangladesh being in our backyard, which Ambassador Goa rightly said. So America finds it much more convenient to implant a dictator so that a single window clearance, like they've done with Pakistan, and they don't have to go through the noisy democracies, and they can virtually rule from Washington any part of the world, which they are doing in other parts of the world too. So for me, there's a dragon in the room. And the other thing why Trump might be under the influence of his funders, because, let's understand, he's a businessman. He's an extremely mercurialist man, and he's taken a lot of funding, and especially from the oil lobbies. So there are lobbies that prevail on him who want, their pennies worth in terms of now getting orders, because once the American army moves in, they're going to actually make comfortable for the American companies to go there and make their billions of dollars. And oil is a huge industry. So for me, as far as I understand, that's one. And number 2, I'm going to make it really quick, is Trump has his back against the wall at home too, from his health to the Epstein, files to the healthcare crisis. healthcare crisis for the public and for Donald Trump's health. So he has his back against the wall, and he gets up every morning and he has to write. He needs the attention. He's a very short attention span, and he wants a Nobel Prize for what? Now he's gone, and with the violation of a union charter, and without having any Congress approval in the country, he has virtually, kidnapped the president of another country, and then he wants a Nobel Prize for it.
Interestingly, Donald Trump's New Year resolution was peace on earth. Now, let me also bring in our Major General on this. The fate of Venezuela at this point. Trump says we're going to be involved as much as we can. We're going to use the oil in Venezuela. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court of the country has now ordered the vice president to become the interim president of the country. Sir, what are we looking at when it comes to the fate of Venezuela next? If we're looking at US involvement, then in what form at this point?
Very good and interesting question you have made. First of all, I would like to inform that Chevron Oil Company is US company which is already there in Venezuela. So that company is more or less now tipped now to take over major oil operations in Venezuela, and maybe some other organizations which have been lined up by Trump, they would also be inducted in due course of time. Second is today's news is that Marco Rubio is in talks with Delcy Rodríguez. She is the vice president of Venezuela, and 2018, since 2018, she has been the vice president. And Supreme Court has now asked her to take charge. Then if you look at the constitution of Venezuela, there is a clause in the constitution which says that if the president of the country is absent, within 30 days, elections have to be taken in to elect a new president. So this aspect of 30 days from which date it starts will have to be assumed. And if you go as per the constitution of Venezuela, then in the next 30 days, they need to have a new president. And one more interesting observation which Trump has made is that he is not interested in Machado.
Yes, he said she's not very popular in the country.
She doesn't have the support of the country,
yes,
of the people of the country. So if you take that statement also into account, because we are not here to speculate or do some crystal gazing that somebody will come. We have to go as per the statement. As per the statements what are being made. So from statements of Donald Trump, I actually visualize that they would somehow the vice president Rodríguez would be more or less convinced. I believe he has made a statement that he is willing to cooperate with Washington. He has made a statement of this kind.
All right. So this is what we're looking at largely when it comes to the fate of Venezuela. On that point, Ambassador Suresh K. Goyal, Major General Rajan Kochar and Surinder Singh Lali, thank you to all three of you for joining us on News 9 and putting this story into perspective.